Some information that has been dug up suggests that Brandon Coleman is in line to replace Tyler Biadasz as the Commanders' starting center. Jeremiyah Love absolutely ripping through the NFL Combine, and some new hires join the Commanders staff. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Full Command Show. My name is Grant Mitchell, back with you all here on Saturday. I hope that you are having an enjoyable start to your weekend, and if not, then I hope that this video brings you a good mood as we jump into some pretty big information here. As I said in the intro, a quote from Dan Quinn has been resurfaced and does shed light on Brandon Coleman potentially being in line to be the starter at center next season. We're also going to talk about some big updates from the NFL Combine. Jeremiyah Love is dominating, but who is coming up surprisingly short? We're also going to look at new hires to the Commanders' offensive coaching staff, and we're going to close it out by looking at some advanced metrics for the top wide receivers and edge rushers in this draft class, and ultimately use that to inform opinions on who the Commanders should take with the 7th pick in a couple of months. So, guys, gather around. Appreciate you all being here as always. Make sure you hit the like and the hype buttons if you're enjoying the content. Just like I say every day, that is the #1 way you can support me. Speaking of every day, I'm coming out with videos every single day on this channel. So if you've not subscribed and joined the family, then what are you doing? You're missing out. And to those of you who have subscribed, those of you going all the way back to the beginning of it all, you guys know who you are, and I appreciate you all. And as always, leave your thoughts on everything that we go over in this video in the comment section below. So we'll start it off with the headliner, Brandon Coleman potentially replacing Tyler Biadasz. So right after the news that Tyler Biadasz was released had originally broke, this would have been Thursday evening, I believe, I tweeted Sam Cosmi or Chris Paul is starting at center for the Commanders next season. And then I went back and I said, or Brandon Coleman. I added that in just because for some reason Brandon Coleman had slipped my mind. And as time has passed, I've been more and more like, wait, Brandon Coleman might be the guy. Because I posted a whole video about the Biadasz release. So if you want to check it out and see my full thoughts, I try to come up with different explanations for why it happened. Feel free to go back and look at that. But the more I think about it, I look at Brandon Coleman, 3rd-round draft pick, enormous athletic potential. Think he's actually shown real skill potential as well when he got to play last year, whether it was as the 6th offensive lineman or when he got to fill in at left tackle. He looked really good, borderline dominant at points. Not good at left guard early in the season when he was injured, but once he came back. So the more I think about it, I'm like, it's a guy on his rookie deal. You don't have to go out and pay the money to sign somebody. Continuity, familiarity with the coaches and DC and the teammates and everything. Maybe this could happen. So I want to give credit to Deuce Redzone on Twitter. You can follow him at Redzone in the lab because he is the one who ultimately resurfaced this clip from Dan Quinn. And it's basically DQ speaking about Brandon Coleman and what seemed to be like nothing of importance towards the end of the season. But you'll hear something stand out towards the end of these comments, and I'll just let you hear it for yourself.
Yes, I'm glad you brought up Brandon about the timing and the information. And so he did start the first 2 games at left guard, and that timing's different. He missed a good bit of training camp in terms of the punch timing and where to go. And so then being out, Chris jumped in, and then we started moving him at other spots, including like a jumbo tight end. So I think what he's shown, and he's learned a lot here in year 2, one about himself, like this is a resilient guy that can, do a lot of things based on his athleticism. Him learning and going through the hard moments, it sucks when you're going through it, but it also, you gain some confidence knowing there's a number of things I can do. We saw him snap and pull in practice the other day and said, makes it look easy and that type of athleticism. But I think it's the resilience that he's shown this year when it hasn't gone right, that you still find the lessons in it.
So the standout piece there is obviously Dan Quinn speaking about Brandon Coleman taking snaps in practice, snapping and pulling, and quote, he makes it look easy. Like I said before, I believe Coleman just has too much talent and too much potential with his athleticism and his size to remain sitting on the bench. He was really good when he got to play towards the back half of the season. Did have his warts as a rookie, but he also showed some flash. And when you consider that he's being paired up with good players, Laremy Tunsil at left tackle, he'll be immediately adjacent to Sam Cosmi. And whether it's Chris Paul coming back or whether the Commanders are going out and spending real money to get a really good left guard, Josh Connolly, you assume, is improving on the right tackle spot because he continued to ascend as his rookie season went on. Brandon Coleman has all of the size in the world. He has the strength. That's one thing with Tyler Biadasz. Biadasz was all right in pass pro last year, but it was the run blocking where he really let himself down. He was solid when he got to get out on the move a little bit, but just winning at the point of attack, if he had to go against a zero tech or someone lining up on his outside shoulder, he struggled to move furniture. He struggled to create that initial push. And Brandon Coleman, with his size, could be better suited to do that. So I will maintain that I do not believe the Commanders want Nick Allegretti to be their starting center next season. They saw him year one of the Jaden Daniels era. They replaced him, and then when they swapped guys out, he was the one who ultimately went to the bench. And of course, Andrew Wiley and Chris Paul come in. So Allegretti gets benched. He has to play at the end of the season because nobody else knows how to play center, but center is not his primary position. That's still a backup. That's still a secondary position for him. So the Commanders, knowing how important the offensive line is, making the aggressive move in releasing Tyler Biadasz, that's an aggressive move. And we can talk about Biadasz having a down year last year. He was still a better player at center than Nick Allegretti was. So I just refuse to believe that that's in the vision. And even if I'm wrong in that, even if I'm wrong and Nick Allegretti is projected to be the starting center, then Brandon Coleman would have to be the backup unless they go out and they sign somebody purely to be their backup center, which just doesn't seem all that realistic. So the more time, as more time passes, and I think about this more, I'm becoming increasingly receptive to the idea that Brandon Coleman could be playing center for the Commanders next season. So whatever your guys' thoughts on that situation are, anything you think this was Dan Quinn, like you think he actually revealed something in that quote that he gave, make sure you throw it down in the comments below. Be interested to hear what you guys all have to say. Combine updates. So it's been a really dominant combine for most people so far. As I record this video, we've seen 5 positions go through the testing. All 5 of them were the fastest groups in the history of the combine based on the 40-yard dash. So we've had tight ends, running backs, edge rushers, defensive linemen, and linebackers. And they're all smashing records. Again, all 5 of those groups, the fastest in combine history. So Jeremiyah Love did run a 4.36 unofficial 40-yard dash today, 4.37 in his opener, 4.36 in his second attempt. That's the same 40 as Jahmyr Gibbs at, I want to say, like 14 or 15 pounds heavier and obviously taller and bulkier. Not the same 10-yard split. Gibbs got him by a little bit, but better closing speed by Love. That means that he was making up the ground. So really good testing numbers from him. Mike Washington Jr., who's the Arkansas running back that a lot of people have penned as a sleeper, he also led all running backs at 4.33 at 6'1", 223 pounds. So really good size and really good speed. Now, most positions of 40 is, I don't want to say irrelevant, but it's not always the most representative because players are rarely ever running in a straight line. Running backs are probably the most likely, maybe them and receivers on just a go route, but the most likely to be actually running straight line and using straight line speed. So I'll definitely give it some credence here and really good numbers from those guys. We also saw on Thursday, is that right? Thursday or Friday, whatever the first day of testing was, that Sonny Styles is the greatest athlete of all time. He is the only linebacker, and I believe maybe the only player of all time in the Combine's history to weigh 240 plus, broad jump 11 feet plus, jump higher than 40 inches in the vertical leap, and he actually got 43 and a half, and to run sub 4.5, and he ran 4.46. So Sonny Styles still to this point, I believe, has had the best combine of anybody. Jacob Rodriguez turned in some very impressive numbers. I was most impressed by his stop-start ability and his fluidity, and I'm willing to admit I was totally wrong about how I thought he'd do. Completely wrong, and it's going to force me to completely rethink my evaluation of him because I did not expect him to test well at the combine, and it's not that he tested well, he tested really well. Now, still slightly on the smaller size, 6'1", 231, Styles for comparison, and Styles is an outlier, but he's 6'5", 244, so not quite that size, but 6'1", 231 is also not tiny. It's not big, but it's not tiny, so you can work with that. So again, I thought he would maybe fall to like round 4. I think round 3 is probably the floor now. Might even see him go up into round 2. So again, I got to completely rethink my evaluation of Jacob Rodriguez. And then Caleb Downs did not have great measurements. Now, they weren't terrible, but they weren't great. A little bit on the smaller size, 5'11", not in the 210, 220 sort of range, not the biggest arms in the world. And then he didn't work out, which was disappointing because Caleb Downs has been touted as a generational prospect, and not in the traditional sense of like, this guy's 6'6" and he can jump 48 inches and run this, or this guy does this many reps of the bench press at 190 pounds. Like, no, it's been all generational in terms of his ability on the field, his production, his intelligence. You still would have liked to have seen him work out, and he didn't. And a lot of the headlines today are, did Caleb Downs make a mistake not working out? Don't get me wrong. I still think Caleb Downs is outstanding, but I was disappointed, especially with some of the numbers the other guys are putting up. Like Dylan Thieneman of Oregon wrecked it. He did the position drills. He looked insanely fluid, ran 4.37, I believe, in the 40. So would have liked to have seen Caleb work out. Arvell Reese did. Sonny Styles did. His Ohio State boys did, but he ultimately decided not to. So we'll see if that has any sort of impact on his draft stock. From players to coaches, the Commanders announced a couple of hires, one internal promotion, and then one guy just not even on the team, but now he will be next season. We'll start off with David Raih, who was promoted from the tight end coach to pass game coordinator. Was with the Commanders for the last 2 years, was an offensive coordinator at Vanderbilt in 2021. JP Finley said that this is a guy he has been high on for a couple of years now. He thought that if Cliff Kingsbury landed a head coaching job, David Raih would have followed him as Cliff's offensive coordinator. So good sign, and we'll see what he has to offer as he teams up with David Blau and the others. Commanders also hired Ben Steele. This was the external hire as their tight ends coach, obviously replacing David Raih. He played in the NFL from 01 to 06, most recently coached the Cardinals from the 2023 to 2025, where he worked with Trey McBride, one of the top tight ends in the NFL. He was also an offensive assistant for 1 year, and then a tight ends coach for 1 year in Atlanta with Dan Quinn in 2019 and 2020, where he coached Austin Hooper to a Pro Bowl year. There's also a video going around right now of Ben Steele doing a little bit of a masterclass coaching clinic on outside zone that once again fits in with the expected style of the Commanders' new offense. So just starting to get written in stone what David Blau's vision for the offense ultimately is. To close out this video, I said we were going to look at some numbers for the top prospects in the NFL draft. You guys saw me put up a chart with Jeremiyah Love. I think that was yesterday's video. You saw me put up a chart with Jeremiyah Love, and we're going to look at something pretty similar, but we're going to do it for the edge rushers and the wide receivers. And since we talked about Love yesterday, we'll keep it on offense, and we will start with the wide receivers. So I have 6 guys listed for you all here. From left to right, it goes Carnell Tate, Makai Lemon, Jordan Tyson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Ja'Marr Chase, and CeeDee Lamb. Now, before we even really dive into any of these numbers, I want to say that this was the player's breakout year. So that would have been JSN's second season, Jordan Tyson's second season, and Jordan Tyson is really the reason I did the breakout year, because he was better in 24 than he was in 25. So I wanted to judge him at his best. So what you will notice from looking at this chart is Carnell Tate is really the only one who kind of lives up to JSN, Ja'Marr Chase, and CeeDee Lamb and what they did when they were in college. 18 yards per reception behind Ja'Marr and CeeDee, but ahead of JSN. Makai Lemon and Jordan Tyson, not close. Now, Carnell Tate was last of everybody in yards after catch per reception, but his yards per route run was behind JSN and CeeDee, same as Ja'Marr Chase, and well ahead of Makai Lemon and Jordan Tyson. And I understand that a lot of people aren't familiar with advanced analytics, so I will say over 3 yards per route run is elite. So these are still elite numbers by Makai Lemon and Jordan Tyson, but when you compare them to the guys who are elite in the NFL, I mean, I'd never seen a 4 yards per route run until I saw JSN here, and then you got CeeDee at 3.99. So the fact Carnell Tate is in distance, I mean, he's with Ja'Marr Chase, that at least says something, and he's definitely leaving behind Lemon and Tyson. Drop rate, I mean, this one is pretty obvious. Carnell Tate didn't drop a pass this year, which is nuts. Contested catch rate, 85.7%. He checked in at 6'2" at the combine, so not 6'3" like we thought, but still got some size. Jordan Tyson, also 6'2", 67% of his contested catches. That's a really good number. JSN leading the way at 90. Makai Lemon below 50%. And then average depth of target, Carnell Tate led everybody. He was the biggest vertical threat. He was getting down the field the most, which also explains why he had the lowest yards after catch per reception. So definitely some dominance from JSN and CeeDee. Ja'Marr Chase kind of floating around in different areas. But Carnell Tate, as far as this draft class, the only one who's really keeping pace with the leaders and the guys who are dominating the NFL right now. Now, I've told you guys that I thought Mekhi Lemon was the best receiver in this draft. I've said that before. I've settled on him and Carnell Tate being pretty close. I would put Carnell Tate 1A, Mekhi Lemon 1B. But this is more of a Jordan Tyson thing than anything because his numbers are the worst of everyone here. And I still think he can be a good NFL player. But if you ask me, would you take him with the 7th pick in the draft? My answer is no, I would not. So we'll switch over to the edge rushers here, and this is how we are going to close out the video. So this is going off of the most recent season, which was the breakout season for David Bailey and Ruben Bain this most recent season. And I compared them to Will Anderson Jr., Aiden Hutchinson, and Myles Garrett during their final years of college. So David Bailey with 14.5 sacks, obviously dwarfing Ruben Bain at 19.5, which isn't bad, but still ahead of him. Will Anderson, Aiden Hutchinson, Myles Garrett all putting up big numbers. The win rate on true pass sets, which eliminates screens and RPOs, David Bailey had the highest pass rush win rate out of all of them. It was Bailey, and then it was Hutchinson, and then it was Bain in third, Garrett, and then Anderson last. Pressure rate, David Bailey once again in the lead, followed by Hutchinson, Will Anderson Jr., then you've got Bain and Myles Garrett. Missed tackle, and this is where it gets really interesting for me, because a lot of people who say you can't draft David Bailey say that he's too small, he's not the run defender that Ruben Bain is. Well, keep in mind, Ruben Bain only checked in 12 pounds heavier than David Bailey at the combine, so really not that much bigger. He's also got the short arms. He also missed the highest percent of tackles on run plays of all of these players. He was well above David Bailey. And don't get me wrong, David Bailey was ahead of, or below, I should say, Will Anderson, Aiden Hutchinson, and Myles Garrett, but he was close to twice better than Ruben Bain. And then as far as run stop win rate, Will Anderson leads the way. David Bailey is second. Ruben Bain is last. So the narrative that Ruben Bain is a better run defender than David Bailey, forget the fact that people want to make it like it's not even a comparison, like it's not remotely close. The numbers disprove that, and then their weight measurement at the NFL Combine also says, no, that's probably not the case. Only 12 pounds between them. David Bailey, taller, longer arms, looks to have a better get-off. So I remain on the David Bailey train. I'm cool with him. I'm officially out on Ruben Bain. I thought he was too consistent when I watched him play. And then everything that I've seen through the testing, the combine, looking back at the numbers, they tell me that Ruben Bain is not someone I want the Commanders to draft with the 7th pick. And if he ends up coming here, then I will support him. And I will say more luck to him. Even if he doesn't come to Washington, I will say good luck, Ruben Bain. I want you to have a successful career. But if I'm the GM, I'm not writing his name down on the card. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. I do hope that you enjoyed. Make sure you hit the like and the hype buttons if you did. And if you didn't, if you just want to support me and support the Commanders content, then you know what to do. Subscribe if you're new around here. As always, throw your thoughts down in the comment section below. I look forward to reading and responding to all of them. It is my anniversary with my girl today, so maybe don't expect the fastest responses in the world. We're going out and hitting the town later tonight, but you guys know that I'll always be watching. So anyway, I appreciate you guys all joining me. I'll catch you in the next one. Have a great day.